Okay, so in this equilibrium we were just talking about, before my computer crashed, this thing that we're just talking about, this thing is equal to alpha, which is greater than 1. So RT t plus 1 is equal to 1 over alpha, which is substantially less than 1 in this setting. So that's why I call this a low interest rate equilibrium. Whereas with our previous equilibrium, RT t plus 1 inverse was equal to 1. So this was an equilibrium where the gross interest rate was 1. So this is an equilibrium where the net interest rate is negative. Okay. Okay, so here's so we have two equilibria that we've computed by hand, and there are more. There are many more. There's an uncountable number more, and when we're going to talk about them, which is a big part of what we'll construct them by combining consumer optimality conditions and feasibility, and we'll basically do it. We won't quite do it by hand, but we're at a point. We're at a point here where we can actually say, what about the welfare theorems that were pervading Chapter 9 that we were using? Chapter 9, we were using the two welfare theorems hard because they held. And here, evidently, the welfare theorems don't hold. How could we see that immediately? Well, this equilibrium, we see it right away. There's the low interest rate competitive equilibrium allocation that's an equilibrium allocation, is Pareto dominated by the high interest rate equilibrium. And how can you check that out? Well, we could just have some sympathy for a young person, and we'll plot his or her utility indifference curves right here. Let's say the person's endowment, well, we know where the person's endowment here is 1 minus epsilon and epsilon. That was a person's endowment, and we'll draw their indifference curves. Where the person ended up consuming. Let's see how good I am at drawing indifference curves today. That's their endowment. So this is a nice concave indifference curve. There's a family of them. With the low interest rate endowment, the person is stuck right here. The interest rate's high. This slope is very flat. You know, it was equal to u prime 1 minus epsilon over u prime epsilon. With the high interest rate, so everybody was stuck there for all generations. But for the high interest rate equilibrium, it was like there was we actually calculated the high gross interest rates 1, so that it was as if the person actually had a budget line that looked like this, and the person went up here and consumed 0.5. So everybody is better off in this allocation. So that was a feasible allocation. Anybody be better off at any of these feasible allocations that are above here? Any of these allocations above here would be better. So that shows this is a competitive equilibrium that is not Pareto optimal. And kind of, so people went back and they said, when Samuelson's model was first done and was cast this way, people started asking, well, wait a minute, where did Debreu go wrong? Because Debreu, this is a special case of Debreu. To ask Alberto Bassinas, this is a special case of Debreu. And Debreu, his paper, I think it's in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. He's got a proof that if it's a competitive equilibrium, the competitive equilibrium allocation is Pareto optimal. So where does this go wrong? So people have sought that. And one answer is to, Debreu's proof has a bunch of ifs, then Pareto optimal. And some of his ifs, there's some if conditions that are violated. They're actually violated in the low interest rate competitive equilibrium. And they're, I'm going to say, not quite violated in the high interest rate. And at this time, I'm not going to tell you what that condition is. And when I say not quite violated, it's kind of delicate. So this allocation is Pareto optimal, but this one is not Pareto optimal, but they're both competitive equilibrium allocation. So now we're in the world of multiple equilibria in overlapping generations models. And some people would say, is this good news or bad news analytically? And people take different stands on that, but we're going to see that somehow this is near the heart of monetary economics, and that's what Samuelson was onto. And we're going to talk about that at a later on as we continue our explanation of this material. So thank you.